Hello Digital Warrior, and welcome back to The Forge. I spent 1 year with 130 people who founded or built 52 unicorns, and we analyzed all of them. They all said different things, but all of them they were describing the same bottleneck, and it wasn't AI, Agile, DevOps, and neither capital. It is the problem of the 1% capable of using any of that. And of course, they are not enough. So, want to understand why? Come with me. New season, new format. This is The Forge. Same focus. We build an elite organization. Not by accident, but because we engineered them. Data on hand. Let's begin episode 78. The 1% problem. Why AI won't save your company. Hello Digital Warriors, and welcome back to the normal office. Different setup because today I will stand up. So I will do a quick interview. Interview of myself. Me, myself and I, plus all the feedback and all the data that we collected in all this year of research. So to begin the discussion, I want to share with you one whiteboard related to today's topic. So the 1% problem. And why AI won't and also can't save your company from the pitfall that everybody lately is jumping in. So when I started last year to collect around 130 people in the research, I was able to catalog them not only as guests in my interview, but I did a real pattern hunting of all these 130 people, so founders and CEO, that they, 26 of them, became then guests in the podcast. What did I find into my pattern hunting? I found stories that they were repeating. Stories like the Boeing 737 MAX and the 346 people that they are dead. Like the Volkswagen disaster with the Cariad that due to software inefficiency, all the Volkswagen group has very tough issues to deliver the conversion of the industry to the electrical vehicle, because we understood an electric car is almost a computer with batteries on 4 wheels. Also, the disaster about Klarna and their attempt to become an AI-first company and how they failed miserably. Almost all of them, they were aware and they were criticized the disaster with CrowdStrike and how a simple mistake like that, it became a viral disruptor worldwide, setting down all the Windows PC at once. Also, some of them, they were really aware that the CEO of CrowdStrike was, long time ago, in McAfee, the CTO that did something similar. And so seems also that the industry is not learning by its own mistakes. And who were more into the healthcare, they knew about the data leak with the collapse of the Babylon healthcare. These 5 elements, stories, as I like to call them, they were a discussion with my guest and the people interviewed in the podcast and in the research. But behind that, after a lot of questioning and data gathering, I collected patterns that they were repeating, patterns that we understood that all the organization that they became or were capable of delivering at high performance, or as we like to call them, as elite organization, they have really tough time to find people that are capable to sustain this kind of environment and culture. And we understood that most probably there is the pattern of the 1% of people with unicorns skill. If this is a pattern, also the pattern on star comparison is that almost all these leaders, they recognize that the Gallup research that showcased that 77% of people, employees worldwide are disengaged, are nowadays a reality that is tangible to anybody, from an investor to a CEO. Also, for an investor, it's pretty evident that 90% of the startups, the actual organization that are trying to become the future unicorns, they are failing miserably into the 3 years milestone. But on the other side, if you are a CEO knows that almost 90% of the digital transformation that they have witnessed or tried, they are failing, or at least not providing the return of investment that they were expecting. Another intriguing stuff that emerged was that nobody of them almost were capable to correlate all this failure to an economical and financial indicator. And when we understood that only the compartment of the digital transformation is impacting the global GDP for roughly only last year, 2.5 trillion wasted, and the forecast due to the high digital transformation is forecasted in 2026, 2027, around 4 trillion, they were pretty shocked, because here we are talking of a lot of money that could be utilized in completely different manner to create wealth instead of failure. The result of all this failure was a shocking revolution for everybody. That is the data that now start to become really tangible with also social implication, that the burnout rate of people on the field is arriving to a very alarming 38%. 38% that are burnout, that they cannot work anymore in an efficient way, that they have to go through the healthcare system, that they are creating implication for their families, that they are most probably the top of the list of the next wave of layoff. And these people, when they are out of the market in burnout, they are creating trouble for their family, for themselves, for their beloved one, but also for the countries and the companies that they are working with, because there are the labor unions, there is the welfare that should provide all of us with the social statement of bare minimum. And if you are burned out on the edge of depression, we start to have a tangible issue on human side that is really a stark comparison with the 1% of human beings that are capable to perform on elite or in unicorns environment. So, with all this data, we understood one important aspect. That is not a coincidence that we have so few unicorns lately. And it means that this starts to become the pattern. The pattern of seeing organizations that they don't have the people that they can execute at excellence level. And now with AI that we understood with all this research that are coming out finally, is a mirror that amplifies what you have in an organization. We cannot expect that the tool can improve an organization that doesn't have the human material to be enhanced with the AI. And so we are facing an existential problem here. A problem where AI can deliver great results, but only if AI is led by people that have excellence mindset, the 1% unicorns. And this is the pattern that emerged after this research. A sad pattern, because we have released almost 3 years ago to the humankind this latest digital disruption that is called AI. But AI, after 3 years, is showcasing that the real limit now to use it properly, even before we are to a level of general AI, is the humankind itself and how we as humankind, we are dysfunctional. A dysfunctionality that starts to be structural. A dysfunctionality that starts to be inside our cultures or countries is something that is so attached to our way of living that the new generation will be even more social isolated and with more problems, internal and external, in their personality development, that will prevent them by design to use AI in the proper way. Until we don't flip the script, we don't turn around the ship, and we decide that is the moment to stop being dysfunctional and accepting dysfunctionality and mediocrity as the norm, and we start to go back to the ancient roots of the Greeks and the philosophy, where we were trying to improve the humankind, not to evolve into a dysfunctional meat box that is feeding the market with money, because we are so addicted to this kind of dysfunctional that we cannot unplug it anymore. And so here, after this awareness that came out from some of the greatest minds behind 52 of the biggest unicorns we have witnessed lately, let's go back to what I was telling you at the beginning, the research itself. What is the research? The research is intriguing 2 decades analysis on all the data that I collected since I started to correlate the Formula One engineering excellence, how they work, how it's possible for them in 2 seconds to go into the pit lane, boom, and change the tires and go out, and how they can do this in a way that is a symbol of human engineering and craftsmanship excellence that is not possible to see almost in any other industry. And so, since that meeting I had 25 years ago, I start to understand, okay, we have a structural problem in our industry, in IT. Also, because I am an engineer by master degree in robotic and telecommunication and also in software, I start to see the stark contrast between being an engineer and being a software engineer. And so I start to ask myself, Mike, could it be that we have a problem or lack of standards in IT that prevents us to deliver at the same level of quality of the other engineering field? And this was the question I start to ask myself almost 2 decades and a half ago. From this commencement of my journey, I catalog data. I put a lot of experiments in place, hypotheses. Some of them, they were correct. Some of them, they proved totally wrong. But after a while, last autumn, roughly, I was able to come out with an intriguing domino sequence of social behavior that, starting from the lack of standards, are creating the actual IT field where we believe as IT leaders that coming into a company with a fantastic playbook, we can fix it with a snap of the fingers. And this very common behavior, believing in that for a lot of leaders, but indeed is not true. And I will show you why it's not true, exactly because it's the thesis and the hypothesis that is confirming the 1% paradox. So let's start with the lack of standard. In the lack of standards, as you see, we have a stark contrast between what we have in IT as professionals and what we have in other fields like medicine, healthcare, and engineering. So in medicine and in healthcare, you need to comply to standards. You need to go and being registered in a registry where you are accredited to become a doctor, a surgeon, or an engineer that is capable to design a skyscraper. Okay? And they have a system in place that is creating trust and reliability. So we know that an engineer that is designing a skyscraper is designing it with so many safety features in the product by design that we are pretty sure that we can sleep in between two pillows. Or that we go to the healthcare and we take a surgery and we can go home without any issue after the surgery. And we put our lives in their hands. Why? Because they have a strict adherence to standards, high quality standard, because life matters. And in this situation, we know that what they are doing is tip-top. On the other side, we have IT, where anybody can be a software developer. So the quality is very inconsistent. We can have quality of software that is space grade or nuclear power plant grade, and software that can be a normal application that doesn't work at all. And this is because we don't have absolutely standards that are enforcing predictable quality. There are some standards we understood with some guests, especially on the German side, like the TUV, SUV, but they are standards that are more process-oriented, like the ASPICE for car or automotive or other standards, that they are looking at them, enforcing the process to ensure the quality instead of ensuring the quality per se. And so with this, and with 130 guests, I wasn't able to demonstrate it differently. We can say IT doesn't have any standard, or at least the lack of standards to ensure quality and to set the bar to an engineering level or to a high grade of quality is not present. And this is an intriguing scenario because it's the field of IT since decades. So, if this is the playground, what did it happen in the last 40, 50 years? happened exactly the paradox of the 1%. So there is so much scarcity of talents, so much request for software developers that the industry lowered the bar to a point that everybody can a Udemy or a YouTube or a Coursera training and is able to write some code, can find a job as developers. A job that in a lot of countries are paid more than a normal work. So if I can become a software developer watching YouTube for free and then getting a job that is providing me more revenue, who won't do that? Is, of course, a temptation that the market created with a high demand of software developers. But this is the result of these decades of dysfunctional hiring, as I call it. Dysfunctional hiring that I have measured in the last 2 decades with the help of all the other crafters that they have collaborated with me in the research, with roughly 100,000 of screening of people on technical level. What we have found is that we can put a funnel where we have 3 filters. The first filter is plain technical mastery. Are you capable to develop software in a way that quality is predictable? So, test first approach. Only a few of them they can. And is roughly 3% of the population. In the last period, it's increasing a bit, but a lot of them, they don't know how to create test-driven development in the proper way. So a lot of developers, they are doing indeed TDD, but they are testing implementation and not the code behavior. And this is a dysfunctional TDD. That is better than nothing, don't get me wrong, but it's not TDD. Okay? It's not measuring quality in a predictable way. So let's say that 3% roughly is 10 to 5% of what is emerging lately. So 5% of the developers population out there is capable to pass a basic tic-tac-toe or a Fizbaz-Kata in a way that they can go to the second filter. And the second filter is a social evaluation. Social evaluation that in IT, you cannot work alone. You need to cooperate with the others. But in our society, we grew up in social isolation, head down, doom scrolling on the social networks. And these are the new generation of developers out there. People that have a lot of issues, social issues, to being able to interact with the others. And this is a bottleneck, a gigantic social bottleneck that I am witnessing as a judo and jiu-jitsu trainer, also with kids outside IT. Kids with social isolation at school, with bullying, with these kind of social issues that are preventing them for a normal psychological and personality traits development. When they will be grown up and they will go in a team, in an IT team to work as developers, they will face a lot of issues when they have to raise the head from the keyboard and talk and collaborate with the others. And in elite organization, collaborating with the others starts when we write code with pair and mode programming. And so if these guys, they are not capable to work in pair and MOBA, we have developers that are not affecting into their 30% time, roughly, where they only put their head down in focus mode and they write code. And here, the funnel gets even narrow, because if they have the social skills, the problem is that the speed of digital disruption is so fast that a developer gets immediately framed in their technological stack in the moment they lose the grit, the hunger to continue to study on daily basis. So IT is the kind of work where you never stop studying because the technology is changing so fast. And you have a full stack from DevOps to front end and all the stuff in the middle that if you don't keep up studying every day, in 6 months you are outdated. So when we have started to evaluate all the people we have worked with a lot of organizations, with these 3 layers of filtering, what emerged is that roughly only 1% of them, they were ready to work in a unicorns, in a elite environment. And this is nothing exceptional. Thinking to Formula 1, MotoGP, Olympic sports, the 1% rule applies to all of them. In MotoGP, we have 21, roughly, riders capable to drive a prototype like that. In Formula 1, it's the same. In Olympic sport, it's the same. If you go in the army, in a SWAT team, it's almost the same. 1% of elite is generally the norm. But then is, what do we do? What the society does with the 99% that are remaining? And this is the problem of the third layer, the layer of the mediocrity culture. So what I found, and this is very intriguing for me, is that because the market is saturated of mediocre developers or mediocre profiles, organizations that they don't have a tough iron filter with the filtering that we have shown now to being able to screen only the 1% of top talent, the 99% will most probably land on these kind of organizations. But the culture of a place is multi-layer. But the real trigger that changed the culture of a place is the acceptance of behavior that are defining the culture itself. So if an organization is accepting developers that are creating software with inconsistent quality, with error prone, with software that is not what the user was looking for, this is the de facto culture of this organization. And then you can measure it looking at how many tickets are in the support, how pleased or pissed is the user with your product or service, and with other indicators more technical like code coverage, technical depth, hotspots in where you need to refactor the architecture because is this the place that everybody is touching. So as a fragile design, and a lot of other indicators that we can talk for hours. The result is, at the end, long shot, because we have started long time ago to accept in organization to hire mediocre developers, now we have only mediocre developers. And if you put a mediocre developer with in a competition with Olympic grade developers, guess what? The Olympic grade developer will say goodbye. I don't stay in a league where we are playing amateur. Okay? I want to play professional. And indeed, the larger majority of these 1% elite developers, they are working in elite unicorns. Meta, AWS, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, you can name it. Who is not working there is because they were working in this such place, but the culture is too performance oriented in these places. And so after a while, they got tired and they start to open their own little company. And who instead is not working in these organizations, in these unicorns, or is not capable to jump into a small company of former unicorns player, they work in organization where mediocrity is accepted by design, even by policy, because we have the HR departments that are fostering a culture where we can hire everybody, where we don't have discrimination to nobody, where we have the labor union that is protecting everybody. And when you have them in the organization, how you get rid of them? In a lot of countries, you cannot. And so, because we had very broader filters to accept people in our organization, because we were thinking as leadership that we need more developers, manpower, and it recalls to me the mythological manpower that at the end, long shot, created a culture of stagnation and mediocrity that now, as leaders, we have a really tough time to get rid of. Because also the labor union and the countries with the bureaucracy where we live, they are not allowing us to purge them all. It's not anymore the time that we can purge people, especially now that with all this stuff layoff after the COVID. How many people we can lay off anymore? Who will perform the job? So these are problems that a lot of these leaders, they have showcased to me with data. And so when they were showing me this data, I asked them, okay, so which is the consequence of trying to get rid of mediocrity within the boundaries of the bureaucracy and the legal act that you can work as a leader? And all of them, they agreed to, there is only one stuff that we pay and hope, that are digital transformation. And so I asked them, okay, how effective are these digital transformation? And the reply was, they're not that much effective, but this is what came out that is for me astonishing. They showcased me that for a lot of leaders, digital disruption is a vector to try to embrace technology to shake the organization so that the rotten apple, they are shake off of the tree. And AI is the latest of this digital disruption. In the past was Agile, DevOps, in the middle was the scale Agile, was all this pre-chamber or AI porch, as I call it, where you go in front of the AI door, but you started with your small machine learning approach, and this is something of 10 years ago now. And this digital transformation or disruption for these leaders are a vector to onboard what? To onboard digital transformation urgency. So from the board, from the top, they demand, hey, we need to jump on the new trendy topic. Now, of course, AI. So let's look at the statistical evidence and all these organizations that they were great and they have started over time to onboard mediocrity or not being able to jump in the proper way, in the right manner to the digital disruption, they went out of the Fortune 500. And if we look 20 years back, 52% of these companies, they no longer exist. So 52% of the companies of the Fortune 500 of 2003 today are not existing anymore. And the prediction for the future is that in 1 decade, most probably 75% of the company that will be in the Fortune 500 in 10, 20 years will be new companies. And the old companies gone. So, because of this fear of not being any more present in the market, what I call the FOMO of being left behind like Blockbuster, because we weren't able to jump on the digital transformation. The market has a fantastic sales pitch to poke every leader to jump on the new trendy hype. And indeed, looking at the research and double checking it with all these 130 people that participate to it, what emerged is interesting, because I asked them, did you see this urgency from your organization, from your portfolios, to embrace the digital transformation? And so we start to analyze the engagement and prioritization. And what emerged is that indeed the data that is present with the latest McKinsey or Boston Consulting about digital transformation is true also on their point of view, that 91% of the organization are engaged in digital transformation initiative. And that for the senior leadership, they believe, 87% of them, that digital transformation is something that they need to prioritize into their strategy in the boardroom. So as you see, this is the perfect picture. So we have a field here that doesn't have a way to warrant us with enhanced quality. Because of the high demand, we have a lot of developers, and not only developers, a lot of people in IT that they are mediocre or even below. Having them on the market, freely available and cheap, has created the temptation for leadership and HR to hire them as labor force, but on long run, compounding their laziness and lack of mastery with years of hiring a policy like that has created an environment that requires by design digital transformation as something that we need to prioritize in the boardroom to dictate, guys, we need to transform, we need to improve. And we don't point the root cause, that is the lack of standard and the human material that is weak. We point that we have a new digital trend and we need to jump on it. And if the organization is still stuck, the problem is not the human material. It was Agile, it was DevOps, and now for sure it will become shortly AI. So after this realization, I asked them an intriguing question. What did you notice in your organization after all this digital transformation initiative? And the common reply was something that we can call digital transformation fatigue. I tried to transform this concept into a more understandable discussion with my guests. As you can imagine, not all of them, they were CTO or highly technical. So I had to find a way to have a confirmation from their perception and my data in a way that was more human language or more natural oriented. And so what I used was the model of Professor Ron Westrom about the organizational typology. And the typology, or the different types of organization that we have in the model, as you know, are generative, the unicorns, or pathological or bureaucratic. Pathological is an organization where whatever happens is somebody has to be blamed, so is the witch hunting. The bureaucratic is we need to stay strict to the bureaucracy, because in this way nobody can be blamed that something went wrong. And degenerative instead is a culture where we have highly degree of freedom and every failure is a lesson learned. With these three models, I tried to challenge them. Okay, after all this digital transformation that you have witnessed or you were in also as leaders, which kind of organization were able to do it properly? Only one reply: generative culture. When we have a generative culture where we have elite players, then they are allowed and authorized to fail, and every failure is a lesson learned. Boom, we have absolutely this kind of marriage. In the failure, they were both pathological and bureaucratic organization where they were really resistant to change. So dictating the top-down digital transformation was a problem because it was a dictatorial imposition that people, they reacted very badly with a fake smile of, yes, we will do that, but inside was rage and the spirit of riot. Then this kind of organization, they were setting up the digital transformation in a way that the board was always provided with lipstick or fake metrics to avoid to showcase failure. And this was intriguing because they realized that indeed this organization, they were more focused to follow the rule and blame the system than doing what was requested them. And because of that, they had to create and make up some metrics to showcase partial victories. But when we went deeply to understand, okay, which was the effect, not on the system, but on the people in and out, so employees and users, we found an intriguing pattern. All of this organization, they were with very high level of disengagement and a ginormous level of burnout. And this was inside. But outside, they were providing legacy products and the NPS, the customer satisfaction, measure it as you want, was really below any kind of acceptability. And so they arrived to the point to see, yes, we see now why these organizations are plateauing on this mediocrity swamp where we cannot get any more traction with new users. The old users, they are trying to escape the product or service. If they are still here, it's because they didn't find a good competitor or because the market is so niche that they don't have alternatives. But what I tried to understand with them was more on the disengagement. And this is an intriguing data that we were able to pull. I measure the waste of burnout and disengagement. And only the disengagement is creating globally a waste that is the equivalent of the 9% of the global GDP. And the burnout, there are not that many data yet available. And this is a pity because for me, if we start to put all the social reverb of the burnout of one individual on the country and the global GDP, these numbers can be, I don't want to say maybe double, but something like this. Because only the disengagement is causing a loss of productivity of $8.9 trillion wasted yearly. And it will increase in the next years for sure. But the burnout is creating not only a loss of productivity, but is creating also social cost for the company, for the country, for the families. So there are indeed factors beyond the loss of productivity of a company. And in this research, I wasn't able to find anything that can provide us more data. The shocking eye-opening moment for all these people when we were discussing was that due to the hiring policy that is accepting to don't get the 1% elite people, then they have a long-term loss of productivity that is way bigger than creating a system that is introducing into the organization the right people, socially and technically, and then is nurturing them to become the 1%. And so, after this moment, I asked them, okay, so why all these organizations out there in the market, they are moving to the playbook myth? And if the playbook in the past was Agile and then DevOps and then scaled Agile, now is AI. Do we want that AI, it becomes the new digital transformation playbook that has the same data of this picture? And with them, we arrive to the final conclusion. No, we don't want that. AI needs to be the moment where we turn around the ship because we understood that the problem is the people and the culture that we have inside our society, inside our organization, inside our team. And so this is the intriguing aspect that finally came out from this research. And as you see, the problem is not AI. The problem is not that AI has hallucination. The problem wasn't that the prompt from the prompt engineers were wrong. The problem is not that the new way of working with AI, with spec-driven, your specs are not good enough. The problem is who is behind the keyboard, the human that is collaborating with AI, capable to work in a way that the amplification of his behaviors as human, his perception of quality will be amplified 10, 20, 30, even 100 times more. Because the real bottleneck now is clear, is us. Us as humans, that we need to get rid of all these functionalities. We need to organize our time in a proper way. We need to be focused. We need to stop being socially disconnected. And what is emerging is a new model. A new model that I will start to describe in the next episode. That is the model of small elite teams. Elite teams built with people inside the 1%. People that you don't pick up from the street with the canonical HR policy, but that you build in your organization with specific systems to upskill people from ordinary to extraordinary. Systems that could be an analogy of what is done in F1, MotoGP, or in the army, getting people that are above average and transforming them into superhumans, into super engineers, super mechanics, super developers. How? With a system that is designed to work in a way that is upskilling the human in a human way. And because this requires an entire topic, is something that we will discuss in the next episodes, because there is a problem in how the academy is teaching people. The academic journey that a new engineer, a new UX designer, a new product owner, a new business leader, they go through the actual university with credits, is not absolutely what the market requires. The university are lagging behind on a lot of stuff, but especially in one, to fill in the gap between theory and practice. And this is something that absolutely we will discuss in the future. So, to have this change of format, as you see, this is what emerged from this year of research. And in the future, I will show you what emerged with our 3 years of experimentation working with AI. Since we started 3 years ago chatting with AI, to then start to work with AI as prompt engineers, and now with using AI as crafters, but with specifically designed spec files, version in GitHub, that are teaching AI. These are the boundaries of behaviors that we want to enhance, we want to improve, we want to don't go outside this bubble of elite behaviors that we expect from your help. That's all for today. Talk to you next week. See you. Bye.
Thanks for listening, and please remember to subscribe to the Forge of Unicorns to stay up to date with our latest episodes.